In this video, we are going to add some advanced animation for our markers once we show them on the map. So the way it's going to work is as following. Once we click on a certain group of points on our map, okay, and then click on the show button, our markers are going to appear one by one with a certain time delay between one marker and the other. Okay, so let's go ahead and create this. So I'm going to go back to my file FTP, create a new file, and call it drop markers animation.php. Okay. Let's open the file using brackets. And let's copy the same code from the previous file. Let's open our file. Okay. Now let's change the title to markers animation. Okay. So at the moment, if we click on a group of points inside our map and then click on the show button, we see our markers, and all of them, they appear at the same time with no animation. Okay, so at the moment we are using the show markers function, which is just setting for each marker inside our markers array, it's setting the map object where the marker should appear. Okay, so now we want to use a timing event function which will create a certain time gap between one marker appearing and the other. Okay, so the function we're going to be using is setTimeout, but if we use it straight away here, for some reason it's not going to work. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to create another function. I'm going to copy this line of code and then create another function. Let's call it add marker with delay. Okay, and we're going to keep the I parameter inside this function. So let's define this function, add marker with delay. Let's use the setTimeout function. So this function is going to take a couple of parameters. So the first one is going to be a function. Okay. And the second one is going to be the delay in milliseconds. So let's go for a fixed delay of 200 milliseconds for now. And let's write our code inside the curly brackets of the function. So first of all, we want to set the map object using the line of code that we copied earlier. Okay, so this will create our marker or show the marker inside the map. Also, we want to add some animation to our marker. And to do that, as we have seen earlier, we're going to access the marker. We'll use the marker object, and then we use the method setAnimation. Okay. So we're looking at dropping the marker. So the value is going to be google.maps.animation.drop in capital letters. Okay. Our function is going to take a parameter I that we're using inside our code, and also So just make sure the name of the function is the same as in there. Okay, now let's save and refresh our page. Now if I click on a group of points on our map and then click on the show button, we can see the markers appearing all at the same time, and we can see the drop animation. Okay, but that's not exactly what we want, because we want all of them, or we want them to appear like this, so one marker after the other. Okay. Now let's have a quick look at our code. So once we click on the show button, it's going to call the function show markers. So this function is going to call the function add marker with delay for each marker. So this function calls the setTimeOut function for each marker, and it's going to add a delay of 200 milliseconds between clicking on the button and making the marker appear. So at the end, once we click on the button, marker number 1 or number 0 is going to show up 200 milliseconds after the click. Marker number 1 is going to show up also 200 milliseconds after the click. Marker number 2 shows up 200 milliseconds after the click. So at the end, all these markers, they're going to show up 200 milliseconds after clicking on the show button, which means that they're going to appear at the same time. So if we create a delay which is related to I, for example, if we multiply 200 by I, we're going to end up with a different situation. Now, marker number 0 is going to have a 0 millisecond delay. Marker number 1 is going to have a 200 millisecond delay. Marker number 1 and number 2 is going to have a 400 millisecond delay. Okay? So, which means once we click on the show button, straight away marker number 0 appears. And then 200 milliseconds later, marker number 1 appears. And then 200 milliseconds later, marker number 2 appears, and so on. All right, so let's save our code, try this, and make sure that everything is working. So if I click on a group of points, and then click on the show button, now we get exactly what we want. Okay, so we've seen that marker number 1 appeared straight away, and then we had a delay of 200 milliseconds between one marker and the other. In the next video, we are going to get introduced to the direction service, which calculates the routes between two locations.